It is time. It's we're going to punch the clock a little early. There's nothing wrong with that. So the beauty of soccer is in session is that we get to talk to folks and we get to pull them out of like lunchroom duty, and we get to pull them out of class, and we get to sit there and see if the coaches can sit there and, hey, I need you to sit in my class for a couple of minutes. I'm doing a show. And so we have one of these instances. And so since we are in a no dilly, no dally zone, and I don't want to get this guy into any trouble, I'm going to go to Athens, Georgia. And as a bit of a preview for Soccer's in Session, and the beauty of doing, having a setup like this is I can see what Chris Aiken's up to. And Chris is trying to find a space inside Clarke Central High School where he can sit down, perhaps not be heckled, and discuss what's going on with his football program, FUTBOL. And it looks like he is in the indoor practice facility for American football, as he shows it to me. And I think he is. So we're going to bring Chris in to talk stuff. So you're in the football practice facility, huh?
Yes, sir. This is our weight room here at Clarke Central High School.
The weight room. And so, yeah, I got to kind of see what was going on there. I saw that you were trying to find. Were you getting heckled in your previous locations, and that's why you ended up?
No. So my other location is our wrestling room. It's a pretty dimly lit area. So I was trying to find somewhere with a little better lighting for you.
That's okay. Thanks for doing this. I know that you're taking some time here in a planning period and a bit of a gap. It's game day. What is game day traditionally like, especially here in season 3? What's it like getting ready for a match?
So game day begins. Have all the boys meet me at school before the school day begins. Today we had a Chick-fil-A waiting for them, bottled water. For games, we wear the opposite jersey. We're not going to wear that game to school so that other students can see we have a game later today, kind of for a little cross promotion for the students. Gives them a little bit of kind of self-pride also, and lets them know throughout the day, kind of reminding them constantly they got a big game coming up. So I met with all the boys this morning for a little bit, gave them breakfast, got them a jersey, and now we're just kind of moving through the school day, getting ready for the game.
Top seed out of Region 8 in Class 5A, and you are in one of the nastiest brackets around. You are low left as folks fill things out in pen. The final 4 in your bracket, Cross Keys at McIntosh and Dalton coming to town today. You got when the bracket came out, I know that coaches sit there and they'll kind of figure out, okay, who's going on. When did you have your bracket low left figured out, and what was your reaction of like, okay, we're in this with Dalton and McIntosh to get to a championship?
Yes, so we knew all the way back about 5 weeks ago when we were playing Jefferson for the region championship what that result would do for us. We knew winning that game would provide us the 1 seed, but it would match us up with Dalton and McIntosh. We already kind of did some foreshadowing all the way back in early March to kind of see where we would end up and potentially wanted to end up. And it came down to, obviously, we wanted to remain undefeated and beat Jefferson, so that wasn't really a question there. And we knew we'd match up with those 2 teams, but we thought having the home field advantage versus Dalton would be pretty critical. We saw they lost to Cass early in the season, so we knew they'd finish as the 2 seed. But again, not having to ride in that 2.5-hour bus ride, which we've done to Peachtree City the past 3 years, is something we were looking forward to avoiding. So that was a good motivation to win that game, get the home field and host Dalton. And then again, yesterday morning, we found out we won the coin toss. So if we're able to come out tonight with a win, we'd get to host McIntosh and avoid the ride to Peachtree City as well. So we knew coming into the game at Jefferson winning would get us those teams, but you got to beat them sometime. So at least we get to host them both at Clarke Central. So definitely tough, though, to know that the final 4 teams, like you mentioned, are number 1 in the state, number 2 in the state, number 3 in the state. So nothing easy coming up.
If I had told you at this point of the season that you'd be 15-0-2, that you would have run right through the region and gone a perfect 6-0, and that you would be looked at nationally ranked, depending on your poll, your top 30 nationally, your top 15 in the state of Georgia, depending on the poll, what would you have told me if I had just given you all that information at the beginning of the year? What would you have told me then?
I knew coming in we'd be very strong. We returned a lot of players from last year that were key to our success. We got 15 seniors in the program. They're all great leaders. Even the boys who don't get a lot of playing time are excellent leaders at practice, excellent leaders on game day. And so we knew we'd have a really solid season. Obviously, you can never predict you'd go undefeated. Obviously, you never know how you're going to handle injuries, sicknesses, weather, things like that throughout the season. But extremely proud of the way the boys have stepped in and handled different roles. We came into the season changing some of our kind of tactical philosophies. We went from a much more defensive unit the past 2 seasons to much more offensive heavy this year. We've relied heavily on kind of a 4-5-1, trying to keep every game 0-0 with great defense and great goalie play. It's been very successful in the regular season, 2021, 2022. Both seasons we had, I think, 15, 16 wins, but anytime we got down a goal, we struggled to chase the game. And that was because we spent so much time relying on defense throughout the regular season. And so coming into this year, knowing we returned Thad Pruitt and Raul, who were two of our leading goal scorers, as well as Lucas Stewart, we knew we had some offensive power we could come into the season with. And we switched to a very kind of 4-3-3 with three forwards that stay high the whole game, trying to get the ball into more attacking positions quicker. And so we've seen a lot of success from that. I think we ended with a plus 80 goal differential this year. And so definitely the offensive transition has been key to our success. We're kind of putting other teams on their heels, getting up 2-0, and then they're trying to chase us. And so definitely the tactical shift to a much more offensive heavy formation has been very successful this season, and we're looking to keep that going tonight.
How difficult a transition was it for you to go from one formation to another, be comfortable with it, have the players be comfortable with it? Or has it still been a work in progress and they're still trying to sit there and they're still tweaking things as we get into season 3? How long did it take to get to full song, or are you still trying to get there?
Still definitely tinkering constantly. We started early in season with 2 holding mids throughout the first 10 games of the year because I was still focused on that defensive element. But we had a player come back from an injury. He's a high caliber player, plays for the ODP regional pool team. He became the one true 6. And so now we play with 2 cams and even get more people forward. I think he was kind of a missing piece in that first part of the season as far as really wanting to free up the offensive versus defensive units. And so having the one holding 6 all game has provided us a lot of offense the past 3 games. We scored 5 versus Lithia Springs. We scored 6 versus Winder Barrow. And so he's kind of freed us up to get more players in the attacking third. But again, like you mentioned, it's constantly just tinkering, seeing what's working, what's not working, and seeing which players are playing well at the time, which are not playing well. We've got guys that come off the bench that come in and score consistently. And so everyone is constantly competing for those minutes in the attacking positions. So it's good to have a lot of people, not only the starting unit, but they're coming off the bench contributing. And so makes my job tough, but it's a good problem to have.
I was going to say, that's a good tough to have. Class 5A playoffs tonight. Clarke Central hosting Dalton, 14-4-1 against 15-0-2 in the toughest quadrant in 5A this year here in the GHSA playoffs. Hanging out with us here, kind of breaking things down for a Soccer is in Session tease and preview for the show that's coming up at noon, because Chris is kind of busy. You know, he's got stuff to do there at Clarke Central during the noon hour. So we figured we'd grab him here and talk about things. Dalton, how much film study have you done? Is it just like we know what Matt Cheeves and the Catamounts are going to do? We've seen them. We know that this is his DNA. What has study hall been like getting ready for this matchup?
So we're fortunate with the first round game being 7 days previous. We had a lot of time to prepare for them. I was able to get a hold of 5 of their game videos, and so I've done a lot of video analysis. High school soccer is no different than elite level soccer. When you're at the top level of high school soccer, you're doing as many things as you can to prepare for the game. So we've broken down film extensively, dialed in on key players. We looked at 2023 statistics to see who was key players from last season. We're looking at who plays for what club teams, trying to identify tendencies on the field, see who leading goal scorers are, leading assist players. And so we've done extensive scouting. We used practice last week on Thursday and Friday to recover from Lithia Springs, and we got a hard practice on Friday. But then these past 2 days, we've been doing a lot of kind of shadow play, walkthrough, scenario-based play on things that we've seen them do on film, tendencies they have to try to kind of jump certain routes or get in front of certain plays before they develop, and then looking at trying to exploit some of their weaknesses that we might have seen on film, and hopefully we can implement those tonight.
It's interesting that you do shadows and walkthrough, because some folks will sit there and they'll go full speed, or they'll go full speed and go stop, start, and it's like, okay, look at this, look at this, look at this. But you do it at a slower pace with walkthroughs and shadows. I find that really interesting. How'd you pick that idea up?
Well, we kind of do it how you just mentioned with start, stop. I actually am not a firm believer in the shadow play aspect of the whole training session. I think high school kids sometimes struggle to stay focused for a 60 to 90 minute session if you're just talking and walking them through things. And then you wonder how much they're actually comprehending and taking away. And so the way we design our training session is 5 minutes of maybe an intense passing pattern, and then we'll break it down and work on how to defend set pieces. And then we'll go back to a 5-minute passing pattern in a different variation. And then we'll go to 5 minutes of how they like to run a long throw and play. And then we'll go back to another 7 to 10 minute segment of possession. And then we'll go back to defending them from a goal kick. And so the practice is segmented into probably 7 to 8 different things that I'd like them to see that I saw on film. We code the film for them on Huddle, and so they can watch what I'm talking about with timestamps, and they've got descriptions of what it's going to look like, and then they have the visual representation. But I also like to walk through it so I can say, this is what I saw, this is what I think it's going to look like. Obviously, soccer is pretty free flowing, so you can't have it exactly how you want it to be and how they're exactly going to do it, but you can give them a general idea of what they're going to do, what it's going to look like, how we want to defend it. And so I do that for 5 minutes, maybe 7 total, and then immediately go back to some type of soccer related activity so that they're moving, they're back engaged in practice, they're getting their blood flowing again. And then we slow it down a second time, and we just keep repeating that cycle. So they're not staying around too much. They're engaged in practice, and it lets them kind of just learn the key points of what I'm talking about, focus back on practice, and then the next key point. Because if I just talk the whole time, I don't know how much they would actually retain from my my notes.
Right. In Northeast Georgia, and I will go ahead and round off and call the Athens area Northeast Georgia. It is a growing soccer community / hotbed because of what you're able to do, what Oconee County is able to do, and folks are having to pay attention to what's going on up there in Northeast Georgia. When it comes to the on-campus and area support, I am of a certain vintage, and I can remember American football and Billy Henderson, and I know American football and a guy named Perno as a head coach, and I know what American football means on that campus. But what does football mean on that campus, and what has the fan support been like, the student support been like, as you have been able to do all of these things on the field?
It's been tremendous. I've been at Clarke Central now 13 years. I love it here, and I think that it's a great soccer community, like you mentioned. I think it's definitely growing. Our first round playoff game had a tremendous crowd for a Wednesday school night. To see that many people come out, we were very thankful. Our last home game, we had teacher appreciation night. I think we had 35 teachers come out, and they all brought their families and kids. And so we've seen a lot of support from not only our own school, but people in the community. I know Cedar Shoals comes over and watches us play when we're at home. Oconee, North Oconee. Obviously, we're fierce rivals when we're playing each other, but we're obviously supporting them. Cedar's got a big game coming up. They made it to the Sweet 16 as well, and so we're cheering them on from afar. And so, like you mentioned, it's very competitive in this area. We're probably not as well known like some of the bigger clubs down in Atlanta, GHSA or Atlanta Fire, Concord, programs that have a lot of MLS Next teams. But we are fortunate to have Athens United, Oconee Football Club, and a lot of high kids that are playing at high-level soccer. And so it's been very fortunate to have those kids come to our schools and help us produce good results at the high school level. And the support from, like I said, teachers and students has been great, and we're hoping to get a big turnout tonight.
I was going to say, since I know you have to get back to work, and thanks for taking the time to do this, cut the promo for me. Let everybody know the when, the where, and the who leading up to today.
7 o'clock tonight at home, Sweet 16. We get to host the defending 2023 state champs, and we're looking forward to putting on a good game versus them.
No doubt about it. Chris, thanks for taking time out of your hyper busy schedule on a match day for hanging out with us, and good luck tonight. It's going to be a tough one. You're in a tough region, but I know that you've got a lot of folks who are looking forward to this one across the board who appreciate the sport here in the state of Georgia. Good luck tonight. We'll catch up with you soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.